Hello everyone, and welcome to my complete guide of the Switch Axe. I just recently reached 1,000 hunts with the Switch Axe, my next most used weapon being the longsword at around 200, so I'd say I'm pretty qualified to make a guide on how to use the Switch Axe. This video will be split up into a couple different sections. The basic functions of the Switch Axe, high rank optimal playstyle and skills, should you get Iceborn, master rank playstyle, advanced techniques, and endgame Phials Switch Axe builds. So I'm going to start out with the Switch Axe basics. To start off, when you draw your weapon with triangle, you will start in Axe mode. In high rank, Axe mode is pretty useless. It's basically the downtime mode for when your sword mode needs to recharge. So some pretty basic combos is you have triangle, 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 which will do a sweep attack, followed by a rising swing, and ending with a slam. Admittedly, these attacks are pretty useless due to other moves that are shiny. Spamming circle or B will have you sweep the axe back and forth infinitely until you run out of stamina. The last thing axe mode can do in high rank is during the sweeping attack, pushing right trigger will perform the high rank Switch Axe's most powerful attack. You will spin doing a couple of hits. I believe it's the third hit of the transformation attack that is most powerful. So if you're daring and you think you know the spacing to wake up an unsuspecting monster that is sleeping, then go for it. Although charging the standing zero-sum discharge is easier to space and doesn't do much worse damage. One of the Switch Axe's best evasion options is the retreating morph attack. When in sword mode, holding back and right trigger will have you do a backward swing and morphing back into Switch Axe mode. Now when sliding, you have two options. Pushing triangle will just perform a jumping attack, which may result in a mount. But pushing right trigger will do a sliding uppercut that can mount, and if it doesn't, then you can perform an aerial ZSD that will let you attach yourself if your sword is powered. One last thing to mention is pushing right trigger after every axe attack will transform axe mode to sword mode. Sword mode is your main damage dealer, so to put it simply, attacking a monster in sword mode fills up your gauge around the sword. Problem is, attacking in sword mode uses up the other gauge in the middle. Certain attacks use a different amount of gauge, so once you power your sword, it will start doing Phial damage, meaning every sword attack will do another pop of damage seen after every sword attack. A very useful tip is to keep in mind is that after almost every sword attack, pushing right trigger will switch you back into axe mode and refill 15% of your sword attack gauge. We will get into more obscure facts about the Switch Axe later. Now some sword combos are as follows. Triangle, triangle will have you do a rising and declining sword attack. After that it is very slow and delayed, so I recommend pushing circle, which will do a round slash attack, which is also slow and does mediocre damage and leaves you wide open, but what this move does have going for it is it fills like 40% of your sword gauge. Pushing circle again will have you do two quick slashes. If your sword is powered, now you can do your infinite combo of triangle, circle, triangle, circle. Obviously you can't do it forever in sword mode because you will run out of sword juice, so keep an eye on it and switch back into axe. Another thing you can do is once you reach the end of your sword juice, pressing triangle and square at the same time will have you attach yourself to the monster if your sword is powered. You shove your sword into the monster wherever you attached yourself, you proceed to charge an explosion, and then boom. The move zero-sum discharge or element discharge is the most satisfying attack to pull off with Switch Axe. Note that attempting to perform a sword attack when your sword is below this threshold will result in a reload animation that is incredibly long, so you have to manage your sword attacks carefully by constantly doing morph attacks to recharge quickly. That's basically it for the moveset, but now I'm going to discuss helpful skills to help you in low/high rank. Obviously you want the necessities, health boost 3, critical eye 7, and attack boost 7. Power prolonger to have sword mode charged for an extra 90 seconds. If you have health augments, recovery of 3 makes it so you heal basically to full health with every ZSD. Focus isn't needed, I've never really used it since it's not exactly useful on Switch Axe. It makes it so your sword juice refills a little faster, but it's not enough of a difference to run it in my opinion. Tool Specialist Secret is a must need if you plan on ZSD spamming, which is the most damaging playstyle on Switch Axe. Running Tool Specialist lets you get your Rocksteady and Temporal Mantle 50% faster, which Rocksteady will be back in 3 minutes instead of 6, and Temporal Mantle 2.5 minutes instead of 5. Peak performance as well, just to get more damage at full HP. Only run pre-performance if you have recovery up and health augment though to get the most out of this skill. Evade Extender and Evade Window are pretty much a need in high to low rank due to the escape options for Switch Axe being very limited to hopping and rolling. And since Switch Axe has such long committal attacks that often end up with you getting hit, having a very good hop distance and iframes makes it bearable. Divine Blessing is also a nice skill to fit in as always. The next subject being, should you get Iceborn? Yes. If you enjoyed World, it's just that much more content to have in Iceborn. As well as in Iceborn, every weapon gets a new set of moves and techniques as well as the Clutch Claw. So the moves Switch Axe receives are what make the weapon go from maybe B tier in my opinion to high A tier. Sweeping with the axe while having slinger ammo equipped and pushing left trigger will have you do a massive hop backwards and shooting the slinger ammo. Admittedly, I've barely used this. That is mostly because I forget it exists. Next up, axe mode gets a much needed buff. Performing sweeps until you glow, then pushing triangle will have you perform a massive slam and powering up Axe. All this does is it makes it easier to stagger and trip monsters. My favorite addition to Axe mode is a long-awaited evasion move that Switch Axe needed very bad. Pushing circle and holding backwards will perform a retreating attack that with practice and monster experience will let you avoid hits you weren't able to before. That's about it for Axe mode. So now moving on to Sword mode, in my opinion, Switch Axe benefited the most more than any other weapon with the addition of the Clutch Claw. When you Clutch Claw onto a monster, you have two options: perform the Clutch Claw attack, which will tenderize the monster, or to perform zero-sum discharge. With the right build, you can spam ZSD forever. As long as you have the right mantles equipped, you deal the absolute most damage in a short amount of time in the game, to my knowledge. The fastest and most optimal way to have Sword mode powered up is to push right trigger, which will put you automatically into Sword mode, drawing your weapon, doing circle, circle, circle again, so you do a round slash, then doing the standing zero-sum discharge, and then immediately pushing right trigger, which will attach yourself to the monster, and by that time, your sword should be powered. Sword gauge. This is an amazing addition because it also counts as an escape option. That's pretty much what Switch Axe got for Iceborn. Here are some advanced techniques that I have learned while using Switch Axe. Performing zero-sum discharge on a monster gives you 4 hidden levels of earplugs, so equipping 1 level of earplugs gives you earplugs level 5, so you'll be immune to roars while performing zero-sum discharge. Jumping off a ledge while below the sword threshold will perform a quick reload. If you stop spamming triangle and square during zero-sum discharge, you will cut the attack short and with a smaller explosion, resulting in less damage, but at the same time, you won't have such a long recovery animation. I still choose to perform the entirety of zero-sum discharge to get the fullest of the damage from the attack. Sometimes it's necessary to cut it short if you do not have a mantle to protect you from being knocked off. Phials armor makes the Switch Axe an absolute monster of a weapon. You are able to fit an insane amount of comfort and necessary skills. Wearing 4 pieces of Phials gear and the Escadora Alatreon gauntlets gets you 3 levels of power prolonger and 3 levels of attack power. That's insane. Now this is the build I've been using for the longest time, but it's one that I made and probably is not optimized to the fullest. It's got everything you need though. I know these are a lot of rare deckers that you probably don't have, but that just comes with playing the game. Doing the event quest, The Wrath of the Thunder Descends, grants you an insane amount of slot level 4 decos, so I hope you enjoy fighting Tempered Zenogre. And with that, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you want me to talk about any other weapons, please let me know and I'll see about talking about them. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.